Starting and running a business is hard, but you don't have to do it alone. Whether you're an established business owner or thinking about starting a side hustle to earn extra income, I am here to teach you how to show up as your unfiltered self, level up your business, and thrive as a mompreneur. Let's embrace the chaos and start enjoying the journey together. I'm Amy Traw, and you're listening to the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast. Welcome back into the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast. Today's conversation is going to leave you feeling absolutely inspired, empowered, and ready to show up as your authentic self. I am joined today by Marta Spurk. She is an author, a speaker, and a mom. And without further ado, Marta, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for us to chat today.
Yes, this is a conversation women need to hear. So before we dive in, tell us more about yourself and who you are, what you do.
Yes. So I am originally from Brazil, born and raised, and then married my American husband almost 13 years ago. And in the process, we had triplets. So I am a triplet mom. They just turned 7 a few weeks ago. I built a career of like 20 years. I started really young at 14 in languages. So teaching English, tutoring at home, went on to become an interpreter. I still do interpreter freelance on the side. I'm a certified court interpreter, but especially after having kids, I found this desire to start my own business and sharing my own message, because the thing is, with being an interpreter and a translator, you can't have your own opinion. Yeah. That's how you do a good job, is having zero opinions and just conveying to the best of your ability the message. But I knew, especially after having triplets, that I had lots of things to say. And that's when I started my coaching business over 6 years ago. And it's, shifted through the years, as it usually happens with our businesses as we grow and evolve and step into our callings, our gifts, and all of that. And right now, I help women with visibility across the board. So if your desire as an entrepreneur is to stand out in your uniqueness, that's what I help you do, whether it be in content for social media, getting into speaking, getting on TEDx, getting on TV. Just make yourself seen, because the world needs you.
I love that, because the world needs you. Yes. So often we think that, I'm just, an average mom. I don't have anything to bring to the table. Who would want to hear me? Because there's already so many women doing this.
Yeah.
How do you counter that thought?
Well, if you have more than one child, or even if you have one child and you have, nieces, nephews, or a friend's child, you know how unique they are. If you have a hard time seeing your uniqueness, just look at your kids. And I use myself as an example a lot, because my 3 kids were born the same day, to the same, and they're being raised by the same parents. They're in the same environment. They couldn't be more different from each other. So what does that say about you and me? We're so different families, different backgrounds. I come from a different country. So yes, you are unique, and nobody can play the role that you're here to play.
I love that. And it's so true. I mean, I don't have, twins or triplets, but I do have 2 girls. And I mean, they are completely night and day. And it's funny, because you raise these kids exactly the same way. And yet they both bring something so unique to the table, and just how you have to interact with them, and just the experiences. It's just crazy. It's like, wait a minute, we are raising these 2 kids, they're both ours, right?
Yes,
so I love that analogy. That is so powerful.
Yeah.
So for the woman that finds herself just doubting the value she brings to the table, where can she start to realize, yes, you have value to share. You need to harness that power and share it with the world?
Yeah. So I have used quite a few different tools through the process of my coaching, which has been a reflection of tools that I've used for my personal journey in figuring out what makes me different then. Besides the fact that I'm from Brazil and I have triplets, what are my innate gifts that I'm here to share with the world? And I also understood that by me diving into my makeup and into my personality deeper, I would also be able to then help my kids, especially with my unique situation of them being raised at the same time, having the same age. It's a lot easier for you to just do, we're all doing the same thing. And then now as they're getting older, it doesn't really work because they have different tastes and they have different ideas and different personalities. So everything has been a reflection of my work with myself, and also with having multiples. And one of my favorite tools that I got started with early on was the Enneagram. In fact, that's something that I incorporated into my book that I published last year. Is we always say, you can't, you need to fall in love with yourself, or you can't really love somebody that you don't know. The more you get to know somebody, the more you love them. And it usually is the case. Sometimes people rub you the wrong way. And then you start getting to know them, hanging out with them, you start liking them. And the same thing goes with you. At times we don't like spending time with ourselves, with our thoughts. We suppress our own feelings, especially as moms. We want to cater to everybody else and we come last. And this really can't happen, because that's what you're putting out, especially to your kids. So starting to dive into your own personality and realizing that there's a rhyme and reason for who you are, I feel like it's such a fun thing. Obviously, it's not easy, because then you're going to be tempted to put yourself down, or to, really bully yourself and saying, why do I have these traits? Right. But there's a reason why you have these traits, and there is a positive side to these traits as well. And I use my husband a lot as an example. He's an electrician. He's a very black and white guy. And I am, like he always says, I'm in la la land. I love fantasizing. I love, thinking about, I'm extremely optimistic to a fault at times. And we need both. We need people around us that are super realistic, that are down to earth, to kind of bring us back. But if we are that person, we need the adventurers, the dreamers, the visionaries around us as well. So there's a reason why you are the way you are. And like I said, you play a very unique role in the world. So figure out what that role is. This will improve your relationship with yourself and also with those around you.
Oh my gosh, such a great advice. And embracing what
Mm-hmm.
makes you unique, what makes you different, because we need variety. It's
Yes,
so
we do.
boring when everybody's the same. I mean, even with like trends on social media, you get to the point where you're like, I don't even want to see it
I
anymore. Like,
know.
let's just,
I get
if I hear
those.
that noise one more time, I'm gonna pop, like
Yeah.
keep scrolling. We need you. We need the uniqueness
Yes.
that you bring. And yes, knowing yourself
Mhm.
is key. And that's not always easy,
It's
because
not.
I think we're so used to the noise. We get
Yes.
so used to constantly hearing all of this noise, whether it's, from our kids, from our families, from our friends. Like, it's a noisy world out there. But when we get quiet, that can be uncomfortable for so many of
Yes.
us.
Yes, yes, that is so true. And that's where I feel like thinking about our kids can be a great exercise as well. If I learn to do this, then I'll be able to support my kids through the dreaded teenage years, when they're looking outside themselves, comparing. I mean, my kids are 7 and I have 2 boys and 1 girl. And the girl's already saying stuff like, so and so has nicer clothes, so and so wears nicer shoes. I want those things too. And I mean, we're not even close to teenage years. So I know those things are going to come up, and the way I behave and the way I talk to myself about myself is going to have a huge impact on how she sees herself as well. So this is a work that trickles over and trickles down into our kids as well.
Yes. And, it's funny. My 7-year-old daughter does the same thing. And isn't it crazy that I would have never thought in a million years it would start this young?
Early, I know. And I think with
It,
technology, it's probably gotten crazier sooner.
Right, exactly. And that makes me a little bit more, nervous as they do get older. But I love too how you reframed it. Like, no, they're watching. They're taking note of how
Yes.
you're responding, how you're talking to yourself, how you're carrying yourself. So
Yeah.
be that example for your children. They are watching. Even when we don't think they're listening,
Oh, yeah,
they're paying more attention than I think they let on.
they really are.
So, Marta, tell us more about your book. What led you to, number one, want to write a book?
Well, I think the first glimpse was when I actually decided to start my business, because I started my business with network marketing. And that's when I fell in love with personal development, because there's a huge encouragement to dive into personal development for you to grow your business and overcome mindset blocks and things like that. And I remember, for one of my first rewards for reaching some goals in the company, I received a book by Brendon Burchard, High Performance Habits. And as I started going through it and, connecting with his stuff on social media, podcasts and everything, I was like, how does one get to do this? How does one just start talking about a message that he came up with after working with clients and after, doing the work himself, to the point where he has this methodology, and publishes a book and gets hired by companies to go and speak. So I started getting this vision of, I want to do this. And I don't know how, but sure, there's a way, because he's doing it and so many other people are doing it. So that was my first glimpse at it. Obviously, I started with, online programs, my social media, I launched my podcast, and I knew the book was going to be coming eventually, but there was a lot of pushback on my part. And that's a lot what I, help women with right now as well. With what we were just saying, there's so many other books out there. Why add another one? Who cares if they can literally buy a book by Tony Robbins that knows so much, and it's so accredited and renowned? Why would they want to buy a book by Marta Spurk? Nobody even knows who she is. And then I started, with the whole idea of what we're talking about, but no one can deliver this message the way that I can. I am so unique for so many reasons. And whatever I say, whether it is similar or not to Tony Robbins and the big guys, it's not going to be the same. And people are going to connect with me differently. So my thought process for the book came through the years with, I don't want this to just be my story. Sure, I know it's going to be inspirational, motivational for me to talk about immigration, for me to talk about, long distance relationship, and then the triplets, and then starting a business. But people need to walk away with specific steps and things that they can apply to themselves and not just be inspired. And that's what I put in the book, starting with the Enneagram, because that's what I used for myself. Is you got to get to know yourself, and then you got to listen to what you've been telling yourself, listen to what people are talking about you and your gifts, because oftentimes people recognize your gifts a lot better than you do your own.
Yeah.
And forgive yourself, forgive others. There's a huge component of forgiveness that I add into everything that I do, because it's so important. People don't realize how much resentment hold themselves back from growth and from progress. We start blaming other people, but in reality, it's our resentment that's actually getting in the way. And I talk about empowerment, obviously, and also transforming yourself into a more self-accepting version of yourself. So that's really like the cornerstone of everything that I teach. Sure, get on stages, sure, get on TV, but you need to get right with yourself first.
Yeah, exactly. Because isn't it crazy? Like, I never realized that when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, the self development piece that it would take. I mean, honestly, I think mindset's more than half of success as a business owner.
It really is.
Just truly believing in yourself, believing in your worth, the value that you bring to the table, that your unique traits are what the world needs. Like, we all have something to contribute. There's so much abundance in this world. And when you shift from that scarcity mindset to more of an abundance mindset, isn't it crazy what opportunities arise?
Yes. You start attracting people that also believe in you, right? Because you started believing in yourself first. It's a beautiful dance. I love it.
It is. And I really do appreciate your vulnerability and candor in the talking about, hey, you know what? I had these same thoughts too go through my head. But what you did is you didn't let those thoughts control you. You harnessed your power back. You're like, no, like, that's false. We tell ourselves these false narratives all day long. And rarely do we actually stop to recognize, oh my gosh, like, what? I wouldn't talk to my kids this way. Why am I talking to myself this way? Have you ever caught yourself doing that?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And that's such a great exercise when you think about your inner child, right? And for those of us who have girls, it's, you would never put your girl down when she's having a hard time by saying, yeah, you do suck and you're never gonna, like, just saying those words out loud, it already hurts. But we do that to ourselves so much. And just remembering that, and remembering that you have your own inner child inside of you, and she's just, waiting to be nurtured and parented in a way that your parents could never do. And this is something else, my mom just turned 70 yesterday, actually, as we're recording this. And the older I get, the more I appreciate my parents. And I think it's just the way that it goes, right? We go through that phase where we're like, you did all these things wrong, and that's why I struggled. And I know my kids most likely we'll go through those periods of reevaluating things. But once you have your own kids, you realize that it's not whatever being a good parent means, good air quotes here, is that they were working on being the best version of themselves. right? They were a work in progress. So if you're able to convey to your kids as well that you are not perfect, right? And you make mistakes, apologize when needed. Sometimes, I lose my temper and then I say, you know what? You guys made me crazy sometimes and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I yelled. I'm sorry I said what I said. But, I snap sometimes and that's just the way that it is. So reminding ourselves of that and being very upfront with our kids too, helping them with handling their emotions as we're learning to do it ourselves.
Exactly, because there are days where we just lose it. You've asked them to do the same thing 20 times and it just finally mommy just can't hold it together anymore.
Exactly.
But, it's just being human, teaching them that, hey,
Yes.
we do all make mistakes, like you said, and
Mm.
that teaching them those life skills that will empower our children for a
Totally.
lifetime.
Yes, 100%. And I think, yeah, that this message of imperfection, I think, is huge. Not pretending that you are, because they're seeing that you're not. So why not address the elephant in the room to say, I'm doing the best that I can. And oftentimes my daughter will come up to me, especially if we've had an argument or anything. And she's like, I have something I need to tell you. You're the best mommy ever.
Oh, and it
She
just
goes
like
and
melts
just,
your heart.
I know. It's like, well, thank you. Thank you so much for, taking the time to do it, whether she fully understands what it is or what her intentions are behind it. I just feel it's so precious that she knows at times I feel like I suck.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly.
it's sweet.
But in being vulnerable, you're teaching her that it's okay to be vulnerable. That it's
Yes.
okay to mess up. And as
Mhm.
long as you can learn from your mistakes, there's no failure.
Yeah,
Failure is not a
exactly.
thing. As long as you can learn from it, the only time you're failing is when you totally give up and stop trying.
Yes, that's really what it is.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Marta, this was an amazing conversation. Where can we learn more about you?
Yeah, so I'm all over social media. Find me in whatever platform you prefer, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn as well. And I do have a YouTube channel. So my website is martaspirk.com. I do have my podcast, The Empowered Woman. Pretty much if you look for Spirk Empowered, you are to find me somewhere. So do connect with me. I'd love for you to check out. I have a quiz about personality types as well. It's all on my homepage to help you identify what your personality is and how to leverage that to grow your business, and lots of other resources too.
Amazing. Amazing. Marta, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to connect with our listeners today.
Of course, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Until next time, stop dreaming and start taking messy action. You've got this. Are you loving what you're hearing? Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode.